Captain Jai-Ho Park stood at the bridge of his starship, his hands gripping the command rail so tight that his knuckles turned white. On the main screen in front of him, red dots were spreading across the map of Proxima, Earth's largest colony. Each red dot meant another city had fallen to the Meridian Empire. "Sir, we're losing contact with the southern continent," said Lieutenant Kang, her voice shaking. "The colony's defenses are failing." Jai-Ho's heart beat faster. His wife, Hei-Yun, was down there in the Quantum Research Center. She had refused to leave when the evacuation order came. "I'm close to a breakthrough," she had told him during their last call. Something that could change everything. The bridge was quiet except for the beeping of emergency signals. Through the massive window, Jai-Ho could see the flashes of battle in orbit around Proxima. The Earth Defense Force was fighting hard, but they were losing. The Meridian ships were too many, their weapons too strong. "Captain, incoming transmission from the surface," called out Officer Song. "It's from the research center." Jai-Ho straightened up. "Put it through." The screen showed a scene of chaos. Smoke filled the laboratory, and alarms were blaring in the background. Hei-Yun's face appeared, covered in dust but calm. "Jai-Ho, listen carefully. I did it. The project is complete, but they can't have it. I've hidden everything in." The transmission crackled with static. "Boost the signal," Jai-Ho ordered, his voice rising. "Get her back." "Sir, Meridian forces have entered the research center," reported Lieutenant Kang. "There." She stopped, her face going pale as she looked at her screen. Jai-Ho knew what was coming. He had seen too many Meridian attacks before. They never left research facilities standing. They claimed it was to protect the galaxy from dangerous human science, but everyone knew the truth. They were afraid of human innovation. The explosion lit up the planet's surface like a second sun. The Quantum Research Center, along with everything and everyone inside it, was gone. The bridge crew watched in horror as more explosions followed. The Meridians weren't just taking the colony, they were destroying it. Each blast erased years of human achievement, countless lives, and dreams of a peaceful future among the stars. On a private channel, Jai-Ho received one last data packet from the surface. It had Hei-Yun's personal code. With shaking hands, he downloaded it to his secure tablet. The file name was simple: Dawn_Maker_Final. "Sir," Officer Song's voice was quiet. "The Meridian command ship is broadcasting on all frequencies." The main screen showed the Meridian High Commander, his scaled face twisted in what passed for a smile in his species. "Let this be a lesson," he announced. "Human science has gone too far for too long. We have eliminated your greatest mind and her dangerous work. The galaxy will be safer without Dr. Hei-Yun's experiments. Submit to the Empire, and we may show mercy to your remaining colonies." Jai-Ho's face showed no emotion, but inside, something broke. The Meridians thought they had destroyed Hei-Yun's work, but she had outsmarted them one last time. In his hands, he held her final project, her last gift to humanity. "Captain, your orders," Lieutenant Kang asked, watching him with concern. Jai-Ho looked at the tablet, then at the burning surface of Proxima. When he spoke, his voice was steady. "Send word to Earth. Proxima has fallen. And," he paused, his grip tightening on the tablet, "request immediate clearance for Project Dawnmaker. Authorization code: Captain Jai-Ho Park, Earth Defense Force." As the ship turned away from the burning colony, Jai-Ho made a silent promise. The Meridians thought they had ended the greatest threat to their empire today. Instead, they had just created it. Hei-Yun's work would not be lost. And soon, very soon, the galaxy would learn why making humans truly angry was the last mistake any species should make. 3 days after the fall of Proxima, Jai-Ho stood in his private laboratory aboard the EDF flagship Thunderstorm. The room was deep within the ship, behind 3 security doors that only he could open. The walls were lined with computers and strange equipment that hummed quietly in the background. On the main workbench sat He-Yun's tablet, connected to the lab's central computer. Ji-Ho had spent every free moment here since their retreat, working to unlock the secrets his wife had left behind. Dark circles under his eyes showed how little he had slept. "Computer, run decryption sequence 14, he said, typing on the keyboard. The screen filled with numbers and letters. He-Yun had always been clever with her passwords. This time, she had outdone herself. A soft beep made him look up. On the screen, a message appeared. "My dearest Ji-Ho, if you're reading this, I know you've remembered our first date." Ji-Ho's hands shook as he typed in the name of the small noodle shop where they had first met 15 years ago. The computer screen went dark for a moment, then lit up with page after page of research notes, diagrams, and calculations. "Oh, He-Yun," he whispered, reading through the files. "You really did it." The door chimed, and Ji-Ho quickly minimized the screens. "Enter," he called out. Commander Ta-Won Kim walked in, carrying 2 cups of coffee. He was Ji-Ho's oldest friend and the only person who knew about this private lab. "Thought you could use this," he said, placing 1 cup on the workbench. "Any progress?" Ji-Ho picked up the coffee. "She finished it, Ta-Won. The Dawnmaker. It's all here." Ta-Won's eyes widened. "You mean the project she talked about? The one that cold changed space and time itself?" "Yes." Ji-Ho pulled up a diagram on the screen. It showed a device that looked like a small engine core. He-Yun found a way to create controlled time dilation fields. With this, a ship could experience time differently than everything around it. "Different how?" Ta-Won asked, studying the diagram. "A pilot could experience an hour while everyone else experiences just a few minutes." Ji-Ho's voice was quiet. "Imagine what that means in battle. A single ship could outmaneuver an entire fleet. The pilot would have time to analyze every move, counter every attack." Ta-Won sat down heavily in a nearby chair. "Why didn't she tell anyone?" Ji-Ho brought up another file. "She was afraid. Look at her notes. The power to change time itself shouldn't belong to anyone. But if the Meridians ever push us too far, if they leave us no choice." He stopped reading, his voice tight with emotion. "She knew they would come for her research," Ta-Won said slowly. "She made sure you would find it if anything happened to her." Ji-Ho nodded. The Dawnmaker was her insurance policy, a way to protect humanity if we ever faced extinction. He pulled up the engineering schematics. "And now we're going to build it." "Ji-Ho," Ta-Won said carefully, "the brass will want to know about this. A weapon this powerful." "It's not a weapon," Ji-Ho interrupted. "He-Yun designed it for space exploration, for pushing the boundaries of human knowledge. But the Meridians," his hand curled into a fist, "they made this necessary when they murdered my wife and destroyed our colony." Ta-Won looked at his friend for a long moment. "What do you need?" "Help me gather the materials. Everything on this list." Ji-Ho handed him a datapad. "No requisition forms, no official requests. If anyone asks, it's repairs for my personal ship. The Lightning Blade is due for maintenance." Ta-Won agreed. "I'll make it happen." He headed for the door, then paused. "Ji-Ho, what aren't you telling me about this device?" Ji-Ho turned back to the screens, his face illuminated by the blue glow of He-Yun's diagrams. "The time dilation effect has a price, old friend. A terrible one." He touched the screen where He-Yun had written her final warning. "But some prices are worth paying." After Ta-Won left, Ji-Ho stood alone in his lab, surrounded by the ghost of his wife's brilliant mind. Soon, the Meridian Empire would learn that they hadn't destroyed He-Yun's legacy. They had only ensured it would be used in the way they feared most. The command room of the Earth-Centauri Alliance headquarters was filled with tired faces. Admiral Eugene Choi stood at the head of the long table, looking at the star map that covered the wall. Red markers showed the Meridian Empire's advance. Blue markers showed Alliance territory. There was far too much red. "We lost 3 more systems this week," Admiral Choi said, her voice firm despite the bad news. "The Meridians have pushed us back to our core worlds. At this rate, Earth itself will be threatened within 2 months." Around the table, other officers shifted uncomfortably. They had fought for 2 years, but the Meridian Empire was too strong. Their ships were faster, their weapons were better, and they had no mercy. "What about the Centauri defense line?" asked General Min. His uniform was wrinkled, showing that he had been working through the night. Admiral Choi changed the display. "It will not hold. The Meridians have brought in their new dreadnoughts. Our shields cannot stop their main weapons." The room grew quiet. Everyone knew what that meant. Once the Centauri defense line fell, the path to Earth would be open. The door opened, and Captain Jeho Park walked in. He wasn't scheduled to be at this meeting. Heads turned to look at him. "Captain Park," Admiral Choi said, "this is a closed meeting." "I apologize," Admiral Jeho said, walking to the table. "But I have something you need to see." He placed a data chip on the table. This could change everything. Admiral Choi picked up the chip and inserted it into the room's computer. The star map disappeared, replaced by technical diagrams and equations. "What are we looking at, Captain?" she asked. "The Dawn Maker," Jeho said. "A device that can create controlled time dilation fields. It was my wife's final project before the Meridians killed her." General Min stood up quickly. "Dr. Lee's research. We thought it was lost when they destroyed the research center. She sent me everything before she died," Jeho explained. "I've spent the last 2 weeks building a prototype. It works, Admiral. One ship with this device could experience an hour, while everyone else experiences only minutes." The room erupted in conversation. Officers talked over each other, some excited, others skeptical. Admiral Choi raised her hand for silence. "If this works as you say, Captain, why bring it to us now?" "Because I've installed it on my ship, the Lightning Blade," Jeho said. The room went quiet again. "And because you need to know what's coming." "You did what?" Admiral Choi's voice was sharp. "That technology hasn't been approved. It hasn't been tested." "I've tested it," Jeho said calmly. "It works exactly as He-Yun designed it. But there's a cost." He touched a control, bringing up medical diagrams. "The time dilation effect is hard on the human body. Very hard." Commander Ta-1, who had been quiet until now, spoke up. "How hard, Jeho?" 1 hour of use will cause permanent damage to every cell in the pilot's body," Jeho said. 2 hours would be fatal." The room was silent. Admiral Choi studied Jeho's face carefully. "And yet you installed it on your ship." "Yes." Jeho looked at the display, where the red markers of the Meridian Advance glowed threateningly. "Because we're out of options, because they're going to reach Earth, and because someone has to stop them." Admiral Choi walked slowly around the table until she stood in front of Jeho. "I cannot authorize a suicide mission, Captain." "With respect, Admiral," Jeho said quietly, "I'm not asking for authorization. I'm telling you what's going to happen. The Meridians think they destroyed my wife's work. They think they're safe. They're wrong." The Admiral looked at him for a long moment. Then she turned to the other officers. "Clear the room," she ordered. "Captain Park and I need to talk." As the others filed out, Jeho stayed where he was, standing straight and calm. He had made his choice. Now he just had to convince the Admiral that sometimes the only way to save humanity was to break all the rules. In the ship's testing chamber, Jeho watched as engineers carefully lifted the Dawn Maker onto its testing platform. The device was smaller than most people expected, about the size of a car engine, with smooth metal surfaces that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. "All personnel, clear the testing area," announced the computer voice. The engineers hurried out, leaving only Jeho and Tai-1 behind the safety barrier. "Are you sure about this demonstration?" Tai-1 asked, checking the readings on his tablet. Admiral Choi and several high-ranking officers watched from the observation deck above. Jai-ho nodded. They need to understand what it can do, and what it costs. He pressed a button on the control panel. Beginning test sequence 1. The Dawnmaker hummed to life. A soft blue glow emerged from its core, spreading outward in waves. On the monitors, numbers began to change rapidly. Localized time dilation field forming, Jai-ho reported. He pointed to a clock on the wall. It showed 14 o'clock hours. Then he pointed to another clock inside the field. It showed 14:06. 6 minutes have passed inside the field. Out here, it's been only 1 minute. Above them, the officers murmured in amazement. Admiral Choi leaned forward, watching intently. Now for the hard part, Jai-ho said quietly. He pressed another button, and a robotic arm lowered a small container of living cells into the field. On the screen, they could see the cells through a microscope. 5 minutes passed. When they removed the container, Taiwan ran the analysis. His face grew serious as he read the results. The cells. He looked at Jai-ho. 90% of them are damaged. The rest are dead. Jai-ho turned to face the observation deck. This is what the Dawnmaker does, he said into the microphone. It creates a bubble where time moves differently. Inside that bubble, a pilot would have more time to think, to act, to fight. But the human body wasn't made to experience time this way. Admiral Choi's voice came through the speakers. Show us the combat simulation. Jai-ho pressed another series of buttons. A hologram appeared in the center of the room, showing a space battle. One small ship glowed blue. The ship with the Dawnmaker. In this scenario, the pilot experiences 1 hour of combat, Jai-ho explained. Outside the field, only 5 minutes pass. Watch. The simulation played out. The blue ship moved with impossible speed and precision, dodging attacks before they were fired, striking weak points that hadn't yet been exposed. In 5 minutes of normal time, it destroyed an entire enemy fleet. Impressive, Admiral Choi said. But the cost is high, Jai-ho finished. He brought up the medical diagrams on the main screen. The pilot's cells begin breaking down immediately. After 30 minutes, organ damage begins. After an hour, he paused. There's no coming back from an hour. Taiwan stepped forward. The Dawnmaker was never meant to be a weapon. Dr. Lee designed it for scientific exploration, for pushing the boundaries of what humans could learn about space and time. But the Meridians gave us no choice, Jai-ho added. They turned it into a weapon when they killed its creator, when they threatened our worlds. He looked up at Admiral Choi. 1 ship, 1 pilot, 1 hour. That's all we need to end this war. The room fell silent. Everyone understood what Jai-ho was really saying. The Dawnmaker could save humanity, but only if someone was willing to pay the ultimate price to use it. Admiral Choi's voice was heavy when she finally spoke. The demonstration is concluded. Captain Park, Commander Kim, report to my office in 1 hour. We have much to discuss. As the officers filed out of the observation deck, Jai-ho stayed behind, looking at the Dawnmaker. In its smooth surface, he could almost see Hao-Yun's reflection, working late in her lab, believing that her discovery would help humanity reach the stars. Instead, it would help them survive among them. The hangar bay of the Thunderstorm was quiet at this late hour. Jai-ho stood before his ship, the Lightning Blade, watching as engineering crews made the final adjustments to the Dawnmaker. The device now sat in the heart of his ship, its blue glow visible through the engine room's windows. Captain Park. Admiral Choi's voice echoed across the empty hangar. She walked toward him, her footsteps firm and measured. You are hereby ordered to stop this installation immediately. Jai-ho turned to face her. I can't do that, Admiral. This is not a request, Captain. She held up an official document. The Alliance Council has reviewed the Dawnmaker project. They've decided the risk is too high. The technology will be placed in secure storage for further study. Behind them, The engineering crews stopped working, watching the confrontation. Jeho looked at the admiral for a long moment before speaking. "How many more colonies will we lose during that further study?" he asked quietly. "How many more people will die while we wait?" The council believes. "The council isn't watching their worlds burn," Jeho interrupted. "They haven't lost everyone they love to Meridian weapons. They don't understand what's really at stake." The admiral's face softened slightly. "Jeho, I know what you lost at Proxima. But this," she gestured at the Dawnmaker, "this is suicide." "No," Jeho said. "This is necessary." He pulled out his tablet and showed her the latest battle reports. "The Meridians broke through the Centauri line this morning. 3 more systems have fallen. They'll reach Earth in weeks, not months." Before Admiral Choi could respond, Commander Ta-1 rushed into the hangar. "Admiral, Captain, the Meridians." He stopped, catching his breath. "They've launched an attack on the lunar colonies. Our defenses are failing." The color drained from the admiral's face. The lunar colonies were humanity's last major shipyards. If they fell, the Alliance would lose its ability to build new ships. Jeho turned back to his ship. "Engineers, complete the installation." "That's an order." "Captain Park." Admiral Choi's voice was sharp. "Stand down, or I'll have you arrested." "You can arrest me," Jeho said calmly. "But first, look at this." He handed her another tablet. On it was a message from Hei-Yun, dated the day she died. The admiral read it, her expression changing. When she finished, she looked up at Jeho with new understanding. "She knew," Admiral Choi said softly. "She knew what they would do." Jeho nodded. The Dawnmaker wasn't just her life's work. It was her gift to humanity. A last resort, to be used only when there was no other choice. He looked toward Earth, visible through the hangar's force field. "We've reached that point, Admiral. The only question is, will you let me do what needs to be done?" Admiral Choi looked at the document in her hand, then at the burning reports from the lunar colonies. Finally, she turned to the engineering crews. "Complete the installation," she ordered. "But this conversation never happened. Is that clear?" The crews nodded and returned to work. Tai-1 stepped forward, grabbing Jeho's arm. "Let me do it instead," he said. "You have more to live for." Jeho shook his head. "Hei-Yun's last message was meant for me. Her instructions, her calculations, they were written for me to understand. It has to be me." He managed a small smile. "Some prices are worth paying, old friend." As the Dawnmaker's installation neared completion, Jeho touched the ship's hull, feeling its familiar metal under his fingers. Soon, he would take this ship into battle one last time, and in a single hour, an hour that would cost him everything. He would make the Meridian Empire understand why humans were the most dangerous species in the galaxy. The lightning blade moved silently through space, approaching the Meridian fleet that surrounded the lunar colonies. From his pilot's seat, Jeho could see hundreds of enemy ships. Their dark hulls blocked out the stars, and their weapons glowed with deadly energy. "This is Captain Park," he said into his communicator. "I'm in position." "Confirmed. Lightning Blade," Admiral Choi's voice replied from the thunderstorm. "All Alliance ships are standing by. May the stars watch over you, Captain." Jeho's hand moved to the Dawnmaker's activation switch. He took one last look at the photo of Hei-Yun on his dashboard. Beginning time dilation sequence now. The blue glow of the Dawnmaker spread through his ship. Jeho felt a strange sensation, as if the universe around him was moving through thick water. On his displays, he could see the Meridian ships seeming to slow down. "Time dilation field stable," he reported. "For me, 1 hour begins now. For you, it will be 5 minutes." He paused. "Whatever happens, do not approach my ship until the field collapses." Without waiting for a response, Jeho pushed his engines to full power. The lightning blade shot forward, moving faster than any human ship had ever moved before. To the Meridians, he would appear as little more than a blur. His first target was the Meridian communication ships. In what seemed like normal time to him but mere seconds to everyone else, he destroyed their ability to coordinate their fleet. His weapons found their weak points with surgical precision. Pain began to spread through his body. The Dawnmaker's effects were starting, just as He-Yun had warned. Ji-Ho ignored it. He had more work to do. Next came their shield generators. The lightning blade danced between enemy ships, its weapons striking again and again. In his slowed down time, Ji-Ho could see the panic spreading through the Meridian fleet. Their ships began firing wildly, but he was moving too fast for them to hit. 30 minutes had passed in his time bubble. His vision was starting to blur, and he could feel his muscles weakening. On his medical display, red warnings flashed about cellular damage. Still, he pressed on. The Meridian flagship tried to escape. Ji-Ho pursued it, his weapons cutting through its engines. As the massive ship drifted helplessly, he transmitted a message to its command deck. This is what happens when you push humanity too far. 45 minutes in, blood began to drip from his nose, and his hands shook on the controls. But the Meridian fleet was in chaos. Their mighty armada, which had seemed unstoppable just minutes ago, was now being torn apart by what seemed to them to be a ghost ship. In the last 10 minutes of his hour, Ji-Ho targeted their weapon systems. One by one, he disabled the ships that had threatened Earth. His body screamed in protest with every movement, but he refused to stop. He-Yun's voice echoed in his memory. The Dawnmaker is a gift, my love. Use it wisely. As the final minute approached, Ji-Ho aimed his ship at the heart of the Meridian flagship. The enemy commander's face appeared on his screen, showing fear for the first time. "What are you?" the Meridian asked. Ji-Ho's voice was weak but clear. "I am human, and you should have left us in peace." The hour ended. The Dawnmaker's field collapsed, and normal time resumed. The Alliance fleet watched in awe as the results of Ji-Ho's hour became clear. The mighty Meridian armada lay broken and powerless, reduced to floating hulks by a single ship in what had seemed to them like mere minutes. Inside the lightning blade, Ji-Ho slumped in his seat, his body failing. But on his face was a smile. He had kept his promise. He-Yun's work had saved humanity, and the galaxy would never forget the day a human's fury had changed the course of history. Emergency medical teams rushed through the corridors of the thunderstorm, racing toward the hangar bay where the lightning blade had just docked. Commander Ta-One ran alongside them, his heart pounding. Through the ship's windows, he could see the defeated Meridian fleet drifting powerlessly in space. The lightning blade's hull was scarred from battle, but otherwise undamaged. As the medical team worked to open the cockpit, Ta-One held his breath. When they finally got inside, they found Ji-Ho still conscious, though barely. "Get him to medical bay immediately," the chief doctor ordered. But Ji-Ho raised a weak hand. "Wait," he said, his voice barely a whisper. "There's one more thing I have to do." Despite the doctor's protests, Ji-Ho insisted on being helped to the communication station. Admiral Choi was already there, coordinating with the Alliance fleet. She turned when she saw him, her eyes widening at his condition. "Captain Park, you need medical attention," she said. Ji-Ho shook his head slowly. "First, I need to send a message to everyone." He looked at the communications officer. "Open a channel to all ships, both Alliance and Meridian, and make sure it's being recorded." The officer looked at Admiral Choi, who nodded. "Channel open, sir." Ji-Ho straightened up as much as he could, though it clearly caused him pain. When he spoke, his voice grew stronger, filled with purpose. "This message is for all who can hear it," he began. "My name is Captain Ji-Ho Park of the Earth Defense Force. What you have just witnessed was not meant to be a weapon. The Dawnmaker was created by Dr. He-Yun Lee to help humanity explore the stars, to push the boundaries of our knowledge." He paused, taking a difficult breath before continuing. But the Meridian Empire's fear of human progress turned it into something else. When they killed its creator, when they destroy our colonies, they forced us to use it as a weapon. The same invention that could have helped us understand the universe became the thing that brought them to their knees. On the screens around them, they could see that every surviving ship, Alliance and Meridian alike, was receiving the transmission. Let today be a lesson, Jaho continued, not in humanity's capacity for destruction, but in what happens when fear and aggression replace curiosity and cooperation. My wife believed that science should unite us, not divide us. The Dawnmaker was meant to be her gift to all species, not just humans. He turned to look out the window at the stars. I will not survive what I did today. The price of using the Dawnmaker was always meant to be too high for war. But my sacrifice will have meaning only if we learn from it. Jaiho's legs began to give way, but Taiwan caught him, holding him up. Jiho gave his friend a grateful look before finishing his message. To the Meridian Empire, your fleet is defeated, but we do not seek your destruction. Instead, we offer peace, and to all species watching, remember this day. Remember that humanity will always defend itself, but we would rather reach for the stars together than fight among them. As soon as the transmission ended, Jaho collapsed. The medical team rushed him onto a stretcher, racing toward the medical bay. But everyone who had heard his message knew they had witnessed something historic. In the years to come, his words would be studied by both human and alien children, a reminder of the day when humanity's fury had given way to wisdom.